Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining me this week on Newsmakers. Well, summer's a time to get outdoors and enjoy things, and one of the areas that people go is the surrounding community, exploring the nature, and we're visiting today with the Missouri Department of Conservation to find out about not only what's happening, what's going to happen, and find out just basically about the outdoors. Joining me is Andy Rhodes. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
This summer, there's a lot happening. I imagine it's a busy time of year for your department.
It is. There's lots of different events and programs and classes going on all over the state. Also in the Southwest region, we've got people doing programs all the time. Lots of fishing, lots of getting ready for later seasons, deer and dove seasons if you're hunting, and then just all sorts of things in between. So just general natural events and just getting outdoors.
I want to let people know you're from the Joplin office.
Yes, I am.
Right? So let's explain where the Joplin office is. Somebody's watching. Well, how do we find out about that?
If you're in Joplin, you go south on Main Street under I-44, past the new Mercy Hospital, a little bit further, and you'll see our sign. We're in the Wildcat Glades Conservation and Audubon Center. There at Wildcat Park, and we've got we actually share the building with the Audubon Association or Society, and we've got several staffers there. Myself, Kevin Badgley, John Skinner. And then we've got a couple of folks that work the front desk. So if you have any questions, you can give us a call. We'll provide phone numbers and stuff like that here in a little bit.
Right. So that's where they can get information. I imagine when it comes time if they want to purchase a license face-to-face, they can do all those things and come there. So as we go along and talk about things today, if it piques people's interest, they know where to go.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I know, of course, this summer there's a lot of things people are talking about. We have an eclipse that's going to affect Missouri. People are concerned about, the ticks situation, the pests that are affecting plants, and I know you've put together a little PowerPoint to kind of take us through some of these presentations.
Yes.
So as we talk along today, we can call up our PowerPoint and kind of lead through some of these presentations. First of all, the solar eclipse. We're coming up on that pretty fast.
This is going to be a pretty big event, especially for Missouri. We were talking earlier, the last time we had a full solar eclipse was in 1979, and it was in the northwest part of the United States into Canada. So it's been a long time since we've had an eclipse that moved through Missouri, especially the central part of the U.S. So it's pretty exciting. It's going to run from about St. Joe, Missouri, all the way down to Cape Girardeau. So it's going to run in a little different path than what people may realize. It's running kind of northwest to southeast just because of the way the moon rotates around the Earth and then the Earth rotates around the sun. We're looking at about 2 minutes in the center line there, that line that runs directly through the state from that north corner to the south corner, about 2 minutes and 40 some odd seconds of full darkness because of that eclipse. It's a full eclipse. And then as you get further away from that line, it starts to bleed off. Here in the southern part of the state, I don't know that we'll see a whole lot of the eclipse, but we should have a little bit of edge, maybe the edges of it.
So you see the dimming of the light.
I believe so, yes.
Right. So there's a lot of information, as you say, that a lot of viewing locations around the state. If somebody wants to go close to that zone, you have
there's 54 locations just in Missouri where we've got it laid out to show you what's going on and different events that are going on. There's lots of folks that are really excited about this, as they should be. It's a big event. So
let's go on to the next slide and see some more information. Of course, they're talking about the viewing sites. There's a link there, and you can find out where you want to go if you want to really see that total darkness in that situation.
Yes.
Now, the people are saying already, you have to watch the eclipse safely. That's one of the key aspects.
Yes, that's a big part of it. And as always, you never want to look directly at the sun. A lot of the science, says that if you're going to look, you get a commercially produced filter that's either for your camera or your binoculars, or a pair of special viewing glasses that will filter that solar light out correctly. You can use a welding glass as long as it's number 14 or better. I've got some here today, but it's only number 10, and that's not dark enough. And you can see that you can't hardly see through it even with the studio lights.
So
it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark. And you can see it right there. And this is not nearly dark enough. You want to make sure that it's a little heavier than that even.
So if you're going to buy something to view it visually, you have to check.
Make sure it says on there it's a solar type. They're available different places. You can buy them online and things like that. So we've got a little bit of time before the eclipse gets here. August 21st. We've got some time. The map that was up there and the web pages that are around, NASA has a lot of information on there. It's really neat to look at what they've got. A lot of background on it as well.
Great.
So
well, that'll actually be the first day of classes at Missouri Southern, so a lot of students are going to be saying,
yeah.
go out and look at the eclipse.
Hopefully.
So a lot preparing for that, but there are a lot of current summer concerns. People are talking this summer not only about the heat, but they say the ticks are worse than they used to be. I mean, it seems like those types of things. I know you have some information on that as well.
I do. The ticks are one of those kind of constant summer bothers. It seems like when you go out. They're related to, if you don't know much about ticks, they're related to spiders and mites and scorpions and things like that. They have to eat blood to molt, to move on to that next phase in their life. Missouri and the CDC, there's 7 distinct tick species that are here, that not necessarily here in Missouri, but nationwide, that bite, not only humans but other mammals, birds and reptiles to transfer, that can transfer diseases. So we're looking at different stages. It starts off as an egg, turns into a larva. Those are what we normally call seed ticks.
Right.
And like I said, they have to drink blood or eat blood before they can molt and move on to that next
So that's
life
why
cycle.
they're attacking the animals, the people, as they're going
Yes,
through
I mean
the
that's
woods
part of their
and
life
stuff.
cycle.
Right.
They've got to do that to survive and to continue on. That life cycle can take almost 3 years sometimes if they don't find a blood host quickly to live.
So people have said, well, the winter was mild, so we have more ticks. Is there a correlation between these?
Sometimes it seems to be the case. We've had pretty mild winters. It all has to do with there's lots of different factors. Available hosts, habitat, things like that. Ticks they're part of the landscape. They're going to be around. There's not much we can do to eliminate. They are part of nature. It's an unfortunate part. It's like mosquitoes or something like that. I mean, they serve a purpose and things like that. They're not much fun though.
So there's key things. I know we've heard the tips of using the repellent.
Yes.
If you're out in the woods,
Yes.
wear long pants. You still encourage people.
Oh
to follow
yes,
those
definitely. DEET you can put on your skin. That's good. It helps. It messes with the way they locate their prey. Primatol is good that you can put that on your clothes. That does not go on your skin, and the Primatol actually kills the ticks. The DEET actually kind of messes with their sensory perception. And then you could do things like tape the cuff of your pants to your boots and things like that.
So they can't sneak up under the pant leg and get up your leg.
Exactly. Wear light colored clothing, but probably the best thing is just check yourself and the folks around you on a regular basis if you're out on a walk or something like that. Also, it's a good idea to kind of walk in the middle of the trail. That way the ticks that are hunting for host are not able to grab you.
So they're hanging on the overhanging bushes.
Sometimes they don't get very
the tall
high.
grass and things like that. Yeah.
They're going to get up on a high point and perch, and they put their little front legs up, and they
try to grab somebody.
They try to grab somebody as you go by, and then from there it's a mad dash to find a soft spot to dig in and get something to eat. So.
And we've heard of stories this summer about tick-related diseases, and there's a lot more awareness as far as the types of consequences from tick bites.
And I think one of the reasons that they seem to be more prevalent is we know what to look for. A lot of the symptoms that a lot of people have are very similar. Zoonotic diseases, infections, transmitted between animals.
Right.
Most of these that we're going to talk about are bacterial in nature, and they can be pretty devastating if you don't catch them on time. So it's always a good idea to be aware of the symptoms and understand too that if you've got a tick bite, not all ticks are going to be infected with one of these diseases or are going to be carrying these bacteria, and there's a good chance that not all tick bites are going to lead to an infection. So little tips and things that we can give you to help reduce that even further.
So creating awareness, and then if you do get a bite, watch what happens after you have that tick removed.
Exactly. So
following along those lines.
Yes.
So the pests affecting people, but then we also have pests affecting plants. It seems like this year a lot of people are also concerned about, what's happening to my trees or what's happening to,
We're getting lots of calls on trees that are sick and dying, and it's been really hot. We've been lucky it's not been as hot as it could have been. It's been hot for a little while now. We're starting to see some stress on some trees, but we've also got some insect pests that are really coming into the region, and we're showing.
So we'll show some graphics that tie into the pests. But one of the things we've heard about is people talk about Japanese beetles.
Yes.
And I guess the word Japanese is implied they're not native. They were brought to
They were brought, and we didn't notice them until about 1916, and it was actually on the East Coast in New Jersey. They are native to Japan, and it's just kind of a name that stuck. They're cousins to scarab beetles, which are very common. I mean, we've got similar species here in the United States and North America. Pretty basic life cycle, but one of the real keys that you can tell if you've got them, if you haven't actually seen that little green and white beetle, like is pictured on the screen, is that they skeletonize the leaves. So you look at tree leaves or basically any plant that we find desirable to have in the yard or to grow produce or something like that, they're going to be interested in too, stuff that smells good. So they'll attack flowers and leaves, and they'll basically eat the fleshy plant material out from between the veins that carry the nutrients into those cells. So it just looks like a web.
So people are probably calling and saying, what can I do about these?
Well, there's a couple of things that you can do, and you can use pesticides, but you understand that pesticides are kind of a last resort. They have the pesticides, as a general rule, are very damaging to other pollinators and beneficial insects.
Good bugs,
Good bugs, yes. So it's probably better to and it sounds pretty monotonous, but going out there with a bucket full of soapy water and actually pulling those bugs off of your plants or your vegetables.
Drown them in that soapy water.
And drown them. You can use traps, but there are some keys to remember with the traps is those are pheromone traps, actually pull bugs to them. So as you're setting those traps out, push them to the edges of your property. Don't put them right next to the plants or the trees that are being affected, because you don't want to concentrate those bugs. They're going to be drawn to those traps. So push them to the edges of your property. Right. Try to get, if you've got a real problem in the neighborhood and you're the only one with traps out, that's going to make your problem worse. It's going to draw all those
the bugs
bugs
in the
to
neighborhood
you.
Come down your street.
Exactly. So talk to your neighbors. Try to get many traps out away from the plants and in a kind of a neutral area where they're not going to hurt somebody else's plants. That'll help pull those insects to them. Those traps are about 70% effective. You've got some that are going to be on the outside of the trap. They're there, but they're not actually in the catch basin where they are killed and things like that. So it's a good idea to empty those traps on a regular basis and move them around a little bit. That way you don't have a real bad problem.
So it's primarily a summer problem, though.
It is.
Summer,
yeah.
Right. So
their life cycle puts them into the environment in this time of year, June, and they're about done. They're about to run their course. Middle of August, they should start to taper off. So.
Now, something I've read also is the ash borers, which you've had a couple of years people talking about that.
Yeah.
You know, that there's people don't realize. I've seen
It's
spots saying don't
way.
move firewood because we
Yes.
have these insects affecting ash trees.
We do, and the emerald ash borer is one that we're keeping a really close eye on. If you've been out and around the Joplin area, you may have seen some of the big purple things hanging from the trees. Those are actually traps that we're using trying to gauge if there's any in the area. To my knowledge, we don't have any on this part of the state. There are some, I think, reports in Oklahoma, and then we've got some on the east side of the state too. So it's an emerging threat we're keeping a pretty close eye on. The state entomologist from MU is paying pretty close attention. So we're trying to stay ahead of the curve on this one a little bit.
Now, you mentioned traps and so forth. Sometimes people maybe just, if they live in town, they have problems with the groundhog in the yard and so forth. Do you still offer people that can check out a trap to take that critter out of the yard?
We've done a lot of that this year. We've had lots of nuisance and baby wildlife calls this year, as we usually do in the spring, but it seems like this year's been a little heavier. A lot of groundhogs, a lot of possums and skunks and raccoons and things like that. And yes, we loan live traps. We talk about how to bait them, where the best places to employ them, and what to do with those animals after you catch them. Right. Best thing that I can tell you is don't feed your pets outside. Move that food inside if you can, so there's no food source to draw those animals to you. Most of the interaction that we have in the spring is just adults are trying to rear their young. Right. So we'll see lots of little baby animal calls and things like that. Once those animals get bigger, they're weaned or they go out of the burrow, it's usually not an issue, but it can be pretty destructive. So
you're the person to call if you have that groundhog who's burrowing around
sometimes
your yard.
you've got no choice. You've got to relocate them. They are tearing stuff up sometimes.
And when you relocate them, it's not just go down the street. You've got to take them some distance
sometimes
so they don't find their way back home.
We've got Tipton Ford and then Stone's Corner are two conservation accesses that we allow folks to release those animals at, and it helps. So gets them out of the way.
Dealing with that.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned conservation areas, and that's the areas where people can go, and you mentioned fishing, outdoor time, where they can go to the creek and go fishing and so forth. So we have a number around this region.
We've got several. There's lots of good fishing opportunities. Shoal Creek is a pretty good fishery. We've got lots of accesses along between here and Neosho and further on. So lots of activity there to catch fish, and just watching the water level. We've been blessed with a lot of water this year, so it's helped keep the water level up. So it's just a matter of finding a good hole and trying to find some fish. So.
And I know outdoor, even taking hikes, you mentioned stay on the trail. You
Stay
have a
on
lot
the
of
trail,
areas where
yeah.
people can just get out and walk and visit trails.
Along with the rain, we get lots of grass and things like that, and undergrowth, and that makes seems like the tick problem's a little worse. But lots of conservation areas have groomed trails and places that you can go and hike and walk and just kind of nature view if it's not too awful hot. So.
Now, if somebody who's watching is not familiar with some of these locations, they can go online. You have a website?
They can. Conservation areas on our website, if you go down to the bottom, scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a link for conservation areas, and it'll allow you to do a search and look around for different conservation areas that are available to search and hike and hunt and fish and just all sorts of things.
And we can see this is your website right now from the state conservation. So a lot of resources, and you mentioned people getting ready for hunting season coming up. So if somebody is thinking about hunting in the fall, hunter education is something
Hunter
they can
education
find
is
out
a
through.
big key. Anyone born on or after January 1st, 1967 has to have a hunter education class to buy a firearms deer permit in the state of Missouri. We offer those at Wildcat Glades. We also offer them location in Carthage and areas around.
So they can find the schedule and find out when they
Yes, classes are available there. You have to have kind of two parts. We've actually started a new part that I'll talk about here in just a second, but you have to have a knowledge portion. So you either have to study a book, find a class where there's a lecture, or you can do some online work. Okay. Then you have to come to a skills session, and that skills session is where we're going to go through things like the firearms actions,
proper way to
carry, and then just added information that is important. So once you do those kind of two parts, you're certified. You've got a temporary certificate that you can then buy your tags with. We have just actually gone live with an all online hunter education class, which allows people 16 years of age and older to take it. They've got to take a test at the end, but they'll study, take the test, and then they can get certified that way.
Now, is that a lifetime certification?
It is. Yeah. Once you get it, it doesn't go away. But we get a lot of repeats. Parents that have gone through the program, they grow up and have kids, and their kids come in.
Take it with their next age of kids.
Yeah, and kids have to be 11 before they can take it. So it's a good age. It's a good time to maybe as a parent to refresh your hunter education and know, because the program does change. It doesn't change much, but it has changed quite a bit over the last few years, and it helps to go back through it.
So even if somebody was born before 67, think they know, like,
it's a good beneficial course. To go through it. Yes, it's always best to go through, and hunter safety and hunter safety is always something that you can never have enough of sometimes. So it's always important to make sure that you stay abreast of what's going on and know what's going on out there with safety.
Now, I know you have some brochures or booklets with you that tell you the rules and the regulations for the different seasons as well. So that's available if people want to know.
Always make sure this is the
deer hunting
in Turkey. And this will be the new brochure for the season this year. We're going to make sure that go through and make sure that you read in the front about what's new, what may have changed, with some of the efforts to get a better handle and understanding of the CWD issue that we have in the state. It's not a big issue, but again, we're trying to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that our science and our management is where it needs to be for CWD.
So the numbers and the areas and limitations change, perhaps.
It does. We've actually loosened up some of the regulations on harvesting deer in some counties, and not by much, but it does change the regulations. So they may have changed quite a bit from last year.
So be aware which county you're going to, what you need to know, and tying all that together. Now, a lot of this information, of course, is on the website as well, so they can get that information there.
Yeah, there's plenty of places to find it. You can come by the office. A lot of vendors that sell permits will also have these, so make sure you pick one up before you go.
Now, you mentioned selling permits. Permits have changed as well. You don't necessarily have to go somewhere in person to buy those.
No, you don't. We've got two apps. We've got the Mow Fishing app and the Mow Hunting app that you can put on a smartphone or an Apple device. And those two applications actually allow you to go, and they're right there on the screen. And it looks like they've got the Mow Hunting app or the Conservation app on there too.
So through the phone now, you can get a lot of this information we're talking about.
You can. It's customized to you. You can look and see what permits you bought in the past. You can also check what seasons are available, limits and things like that, locations to go, where brush piles are on lakes and streams and things like that. But you can also actually buy those permits online and have a digital copy of that permit in your pocket.
When it comes time to check your deer and electronically doing that.
It does. You can go ahead and telecheck it right there on your phone using that app. Speeds up the process quite a bit and allows for a little quicker turnaround on getting some of that
getting
done.
into the processor and taking care of it from there. So there's so many things that are being offered, opportunities for people, education-wise. I imagine you do a lot of year-round educational efforts.
I do. There's a lot of things going on. The Nature Connections web, also the website, but you can also get a paper copy of our newsletter for the region. It covers not only my 8 counties on the west side of the region, but also the 9 counties on the other, and it covers not only the Wildcat Glades, but the Springfield Conservation Nature Center, the Andy Dalton Shooting Range and Outdoor Education Center, Shepherd of the Hills Interpretive Center, and just different locations around that are hosting events or having classes and things like that.
So this is a printed publication.
It is.
They can
it is.
Come by your office and pick it up.
They can
or
come by and get us, and
we
we can mail it to you. There's a mailing that we can do, and we can send it to you that way as well. So
is this a quarterly publication then, or
it's every 2 months we send it out.
Yeah, so it tells you about some of the activities. Let's talk about some of the events that you do have. I know that there's a lot of things happening. You have some special scheduled events as well.
Yes, we're going to be doing a couple things here in Joplin coming up right away. July 29th, we've got the Shoal Creek cleanup. We're going to be floating on Shoal Creek and picking up. It's kind of like a stream team event. We're partnered with several other groups, and we're gonna try to clean up a lot of maybe debris that's been flushed down the river due to flooding and different things like that.
So trash, things in the banks left behind.
Exactly. They've pulled out lots of. You never know what you're going to find, whether it's refrigerators or tires or
anything
scrap metal, anything
water that washes in.
Exactly. And with the wet spring that we've had, we'll probably be pretty busy. We're going to use canoes, and we've got a couple of boats. The conservation agents are going to help us with some larger boats to get some of the larger items out of the river. We've got a dumpster and things like that. So you can call us again at the Joplin office, and we can get you set up.
Okay.
And then we've also got the Water Festival. They're at Walter Woods Conservation Area. We're going to start off the morning with a fishing derby, which opened for pretty much all ages. And then we'll move and that runs from that August 12th, 8 to 10 a.m. And once that's over, we're going to kind of move over to the Wildcat Glades Conservation and Audubon Center, and we'll have some events there on the river there at the bottom where the park is, and all sorts of stuff going on.
So it sounds like a good family opportunity.
It will be. It'll be an excellent family
opportunity. A lot of things
opportunity.
bring the kids out, and bring the family together, and so
we're going to have a kind of a homemade boat race, and then we're going to do a kind of a duck release and things like that. So lots of stuff to do, lots of stuff to see.
So do you see in today's society it's important still to get the kids out into nature? That we hear so much about kids on their computers, on their cell phones, that you still need to have them exploring nature.
We do, and it's important to understand that there's so much to do and there's so much to see, and it just takes a little bit of time, and once you kind of get used to it and you get out and you do it, it's worth it. Every second you spend outside is worth it. So.
Now, people can go to these events and see nature, but a lot of times there's nature in their own backyard. They don't realize it.
Oh yeah. Whether it's insects or just wildlife, squirrels and rabbits and things like that.
Birds at the bird feeder.
Birds at the bird feeder. Hummingbird feeders are always a good thing to put up. They're a lot of fun to watch. So it never hurts to have something for the wildlife to do where you can watch them.
Yeah. Even if you live in town, there's something that can help them out.
Exactly.
Now, what about the people who live in the more rural areas? I know you have some services for landowners.
We do private land services, and then wildlife division of the conservation department, and then forestry also. We kind of work those three divisions inside the department work with landowners to help improve their habitat, whether it's trees or food plots and things like that. Give them suggestions on how to plant native grasses and forbs and things for those plants and shrubs for those animals to eat, and it does help. And you can find your local contact for the private land services or wildlife or forestry on our webpage as well. But it never hurts to kind of have a plan in place and look, if you're looking at maybe doing some plantings, what is a native plant that I can use that'll pull in butterflies or hummingbirds and things like that. So those natives that's what a lot of these critters have kind of grown up and lived on for a long time, so it's good to keep those going.
To keep the ecosystem going in your area.
Exactly.
Tying all that together. So
that's right.
A lot of resources that people can get, the brochures, the publications. I wanted to mention the Missouri Conservationist magazine as well, because that's something that people may not realize. It's free for them.
Free. If you're a resident in the state of Missouri, you can get this for free, sent right to you. It's a monthly publication. And along with it, actually, is our Conservationist Junior. This is the Explorer magazine, and I know of a lot of people that get both of them, or they get one or the other and they're happy with it. But lots of good information in both those magazines. Gives you a good view of what's going on in the state, as well as really interesting articles on things going on in your the nature around you.
And I know, having looked at those, especially conservation, some beautiful photography too.
Yes. Our photography staff in the department works really hard to get good photos, and it amazes me that they capture what they do sometimes.
So a publication worthy of,
it is
promoting
it
the
is.
state and getting people the word out. And they have some on the website as well, so they can also check out some of the stories through the internet.
They can. There's digital copies available for the Conservationists Explore magazine. Excuse me.
And you also have the brochures, as we mentioned, available online.
Yes. All of this information is available online. But if you have any questions at all, just call us, and we can get in touch with you. And help you find what you need.
So we are, of course, obviously the southwest corner of Missouri. You know, you're sort of working out of the Joplin region. The state is divided into regions. So I know we have viewers across the state line in Kansas and Oklahoma and so forth. If they're interested, they can still contact your office and find out what's be offered over here.
They can, our services are open to anybody. So I mean, if you've got questions or you're going to come into the state and visit and you're trying to find out more, give us a call. Give us a call. Visit us on the webpage.
So if they want to come in and need a non-resident fishing permit, for instance, they can find, what do I need to do? They can contact
we sell
you.
quite a few of those. Four States area is pretty busy in terms of fishing. People are going back and forth all the time. So
I know you work with people a lot out in the community. What do you enjoy the most? You've had a chance to do a lot of presentations.
I do. I like to work with the young people. I like to work with everybody, but I like to work with the school kids probably the most. They seem to be just wanting to find and learn everything that they can.
Lots of questions. What's this?
My gosh.
Why does this happen?
Oh yeah. So I do a lot of shooting sports programs. I do a lot of just nature and hunting oriented programs and things like that, and I always get lots of questions from the kids and stories and things like that. So that's always fun. That interaction is always a good time.
I imagine you work closely with the schools during the school year.
I do. I've got 30 some odd school districts or more in my 8 counties, and there's always something to do somewhere. I'm always trying to get teachers involved in hunter's education. Missouri Archery in the Schools program, which is a huge program in the state. I'm trying to develop more schools that are willing to take on that program and see the benefits of it. Here at Missouri Southern, this year in March, we had probably the second or third largest tournament in the state in terms of student archers coming in and shooting, and it was good. It was a good time. So. That Archery in the Schools program is a good program.
And of course, we're hearing so much more about STEM and science that it's really going to tie into the curriculum.
Yes, it is. Discover Nature Schools is some curriculum that the department has developed all the way from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. We're always adding or tweaking or something like that, and science teachers, especially, and ag teachers, using the ecology programs or something like that, are always looking for ways to bolster their curriculum, and that really seems to help. They've done a good job with that curriculum. So Discover Nature Schools is definitely something to get in your classroom. Yes.
Great. Well, Andy, if somebody needs to call you, what's the number they should call?
It's going to be, and it's going to be, I've not been in the region for a real long time, so I don't have it off the top of my head, but 417-629 3423.
Okay, and that'll take them to the Joplin office that we're talking about.
Yeah, 417-629 3423.
Okay. Otherwise, drive out there to the Wildcat Glades Park, and they can visit your office.
They can find us right there. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for visiting
with
us today, providing information for our audience.
Thank you for having me.
We had some little friends with you that I don't know if we got on camera, but the Japanese beetles we were talking
they're easy
about.
to find right now, so I figured I'd bring some in.
Let them see up close what they look like as well. So, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. I hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.